The 501st Legion was basically the special forces of the Republic. They weren't just another clone battalion, these guys were the hand-picked killers that carried out some of the most brutal missions in the Clone Wars. If regular clone troopers were soldiers, the 501st were the Navy SEALs of the Republic, the best of the best, handpicked by Jedi General Anakin Skywalker himself. During the Clone Wars, the 501st became legendary. While most clones followed their Jedi generals into battle, these guys were on the front lines of every major conflict. If there was a mission that sounded like a death sentence, chances were the 501st was getting deployed. One of their most brutal missions, the Battle of Umbara. Imagine fighting an entire war in complete darkness against an army that knew the terrain better than you did. And to make things worse, your own general, Pong Krell, started sending you guys to die on purpose. The 501st was forced to fight without guidance, without support, and with a Jedi commander who treated them like disposable tools. And when they finally realized what was happening, they turned against Krell and executed him for betraying the Republic. When Emperor Palpatine activated Order 66, the 501st didn't hesitate. They stormed the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, executing every Jedi inside, men, women, even children. And leading them? Not Anakin Skywalker, not anymore. He was Darth Vader now. The 501st had officially become Vader's personal army. No longer fighting for freedom, they were fighting for the Empire. And their new mission? Hunt down every last Jedi in the galaxy. 212th Attack Battalion. The 212th Attack Battalion was one of the most battle-hardened legions in the entire clone army. If the Republic needed a planet taken, these guys were the ones smashing through enemy lines. And leading them? The most patient man in the galaxy, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi was the general, but his right-hand man, Commander Cody, was the one making sure the clones actually got things done. Cody was a natural-born leader, or, well, a genetically engineered one. They were known for their orange armor markings, which made them stand out on the battlefield. You'd think bright orange would be a bad choice in a war, but when you fight as hard as the 212th, you don't need to hide. But their biggest battle? Utapau. Kenobi was sent to track down General Grievous, and the 212th was the main force leading the assault. ATTEs marched through the city, blasting battle droids into scrap. Clone paratroopers dropped from gunships, attacking from above, and Kenobi, he rode into battle on a giant lizard. Yes, that actually happened. The 212th was tearing through separatist forces, and when Kenobi finally took down Grievous, the Republic's victory seemed certain. But then, everything changed. As soon as Kenobi defeated Grievous, Chancellor Palpatine sent the message that would change everything. Execute Order 66. For years, Cody and Kenobi fought together. They trusted each other. Cody immediately turned on Kenobi, ordering his men to shoot him down. This was one of the most tragic moments in Star Wars history. Cody had been Kenobi's most trusted soldier, and just like that, he was the one trying to kill him. But let's be real, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi we're talking about. Dude jumped on a lizard and peaced out. Cody's fate after Order 66 is unknown for a long time, until the Bad Batch revealed that he went AWOL. Unlike some clones, he started questioning his actions, and honestly, it makes you wonder if the inhibitor chip wasn't in play, would Cody have ever pulled the trigger? The 212th was one of the most effective legions in the Clone Wars. They fought on the front lines, helped take down Grievous, and nearly killed Obi-Wan himself. But they weren't the only ones. If you want more insane Clone Wars stories, make sure to stick around, because trust me, it only gets crazier from here. 104th Battalion. If there's one thing Star Wars got right, it's that badass warriors need a badass name. And the 104th Battalion didn't just get a cool name, they earned it. The 104th wasn't like the flashy 501st Legion or the elite 212th Attack Battalion. These guys were hunters. They specialized in dangerous, high-risk missions, and when things got ugly, they were always the last ones standing. And if you think that's just talk, let's go back to the Battle of Horm. The Wolfpack was sent in against the Separatists, expecting a standard mission. What they got? A bloodbath. The droid forces were overwhelming, and before they knew it, half the squad was dead. This is where Wolf proved he was different. While most clones would have broken, he fought harder. Even after losing his eye in battle, the dude just kept going. If that doesn't scream Wolfpack, I don't know what does. Here's where things get wild. When Order 66 hit, almost every clone turned on their Jedi generals without hesitation. But Wolf, he hesitated. Unlike clones like Rex or Cody, Wolf didn't just snap into killer mode. Instead, most clones become mindless enforcers for the Empire. Wolf, he chose freedom. 327 Star Corps. Interestingly, Commander Davis, a clone officer within the 327th, was sometimes associated with the unit's leadership. But in Revenge of the Sith, the spotlight was fully on Commander Bly, the trooper personally assigned to Jedi General Aayla Secura. Unlike other clone officers, Bly had independent thinking drilled into him, making him one of the most capable leaders of the war. He answered directly to Jedi General Aayla Secura, one of the most agile and skilled duelists in the Jedi Order. The two fought side side by side in brutal battles across the galaxy, developing a mutual trust rarely seen between Jedi and clones. But in the end, the trust meant nothing. During the Battle of Felucia, a fight where the jungle was crawling with monsters that didn't care if you were droid, Jedi, or clone, they'd eat you all the same. Some Republic troopers never even made it into battle. They were swallowed by the planet itself. And yet, the 327th fought through it all. They pushed through separatist forces, taking on the infamous AAT tanks, the relentless B-1 battle droids, and even elite BX commando units. They were clearing the way for a final Republic victory, and then everything changed, and the clones obeyed without hesitation. Aayla Secura had survived some of the most brutal battles of the Clone Wars. She had led men to victory, saved their lives, fought beside them, but she never saw this attack coming. Her own men raised their blasters. She turned, but it was already too late. Commander Bly, the trooper who had fought alongside her for years, pulled the trigger himself. The shots rang out. Aayla collapsed. And just like that, the 327 was no longer a proud Republic region. They were just another cog in Palpatine's machine. 41st Elite Corps. The 41st Elite Corps wasn't your typical blaster-slinging, battlefield-storming clone legion. While other troopers were charging headfirst into battle, these guys were vanishing into the jungle. They specialize in guerrilla warfare, infiltration, and long-range scouting. Their armor? Green camo, perfect for blending into thick forests and swampy terrain. Led by Jedi General Luminara Unduli and Commander Gree, they were stationed on some of the most dangerous front lines, including Felucia and Kashyyyk. Yeah, the Wookiee homeworld. The 41st biggest battle went down on Kashyyyk, where they fought alongside Yoda and the Wookiees against the separatist invasion. Droids were pouring in from the beaches, Wookiees were tearing them apart, and the 41st was holding the line. But then Order 66 hit. Loyalty meant nothing anymore. The clones instantly turned against their Jedi leaders. Commander Gree got the order to execute Yoda himself. Bad move. Gree barely raised his blaster before Yoda backflipped, spun midair, and sliced his head clean off. And for the 41st, they weren't warriors anymore. They were pawns of the Empire. 91st Mobile Reconnaissance Corps. The 91st Mobile Reconnaissance Corps weren't about massive battles or heavy artillery. These guys specialized in fast, surgical strikes and intelligence gathering. If you saw them on the battlefield, it probably meant two things. You were being watched, or you were about to die. They were officially led by Jedi General Stas Ali, but unlike frontline warriors like Anakin or Obi-Wan, Stas was more tactical, using her forces strategically instead of throwing them into chaotic battles. But while she had the brains, the real face of the 91st was Clone Commander Neo. And Neo, this guy looked like a stormtrooper prototype before stormtroopers even existed. Sleek armor, a unique helmet design, no emotions, no hesitation. But Neo wasn't the original commander. He was a replacement. Before him, the 91st was led by Commander Pons, who had fought alongside Mace Windu and, unlike many clones, showed more care and consideration for his troops. But Pons was killed in action, and with his death, the 91st lost its last bit of warmth. Neo wasn't the kind of leader who inspired loyalty. He just got the job done. And then came Order 66. Like so many other Jedi, Stas Ali never saw it coming. One minute she was riding a speeder bike with Neo, the next she was dead, shot in the back by her own men. What makes this one even colder? Neo didn't hesitate. There was no drama like Anakin's betrayal of Obi-Wan, no brief moment of doubt like Cody had before blasting Kenobi. The second Palpatine gave the order, Neo executed it like a machine. Just another mission, just another target. And just like that, the 91st Mobile Reconnaissance Corps was fully loyal to the Empire. Coruscant Guard. The Coruscant Guard was basically Star Wars' version of the FBI, but except way deadlier. These guys weren't on the front lines fighting droids. They were hunting Jedi, politicians, and even their fellow clones. And trust me, their history is dark. They had multiple high-ranking commanders. Fox, who answered directly to the Chancellor. Thorn, who was personally responsible for protecting Padme, and Hound, who tracked fugitives like a bloodhound. But their biggest role came when the Republic collapsed. When Order 66 hit, these guys didn't hesitate. While the 501st was slaughtering Jedi inside the temple, the Coruscant Guard locked down the streets, hunting Jedi, politicians, and even their own brothers. Oh, and let's not forget, they arrested Ahsoka Tano for a crime she didn't commit. Yeah, these guys were straight up ruthless. Visually, they stood out. Bright red armor, T-visor helmets, and a look that screamed, "You do not want to mess with us." 332nd Company. They were part of the 501st Legion, but when Anakin left for Coruscant, command was passed to Ahsoka Tano, a Jedi who wasn't even a Jedi anymore. Still, these clones respected Ahsoka, so much that they painted their helmets to match her Togruta markings, a symbol of loyalty, a symbol that would soon be buried under betrayal. Their mission? The Siege of Mandalore. Their enemy? Darth Maul and his Mandalorian super commandos. The moment they landed, chaos erupted. Blaster fire, jetpacks, Mandalorian blades clashing against clone armor. Ahsoka fought on the rooftops, deflecting blaster bolts mid-air. Captain Rex led the charge, pushing deep into the city. But not all all of them made it. Captain Vaughn, a loyal leader of the 332nd Company, fell in the battle, struck down before they could claim victory. One more loss in a war that had taken so much from them. But before they even left the planet, Order 66 was issued. The words rang through their helmets. Ahsoka Tano, loyal commander, trusted leader, was now their target. Rex tried to resist, but the others didn't hesitate. Blasters were raised, shots were fired. Ahsoka, their commander just hours ago, was now dodging the very men who once fought for her. And then, the Venator-class Star Destroyer carrying the 332nd went down in flames. When the dust settled, they were gone. The last thing left of them, rows of helmets buried in the dirt, still painted with Ahsoka's colors. 2nd Airborne Company. Imagine a military force so elite that they drop from the sky straight into battle. No parachutes, no backup, just pure skill. That's the 2nd Airborne Company, one of the deadliest clone units in Star Wars. They were part of the 212th Attack Battalion, led by Obi-Wan Kenobi and Commander Cody, specialized in airborne assaults and urban warfare, dropping from gunships straight into enemy territory. When Order 66 came, they turned against Obi-Wan, but he escaped. 13th Battalion, the Iron Battalion. Imagine leading an army of elite clone troopers, only to be betrayed at the worst possible moment. Welcome to the 13th Battalion, where things went horribly wrong. The 13th Battalion, also called the Iron Battalion, was not your average clone unit. These guys fought on some of the toughest battlefields in the galaxy, led by Jedi General Utapau. These guys were built different. Their leader, Jedi General Utapau, was a warrior, tough, ruthless, and always pushing his troops to their limits. Under his command, the 13th earned their name, the Iron Battalion. They were known for surviving brutal frontline combat, even when the odds were stacked against them. But in the end, it wasn't blasters or droids that took them down. It was betrayal. When Order 66 was activated, everything fell apart in seconds. The 13th Battalion turned their guns on the very man who had led them through countless battles. Utapau, their Jedi General, saw the betrayal coming, but he was outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting against the very soldiers he had trained. In the chaos, a young trooper named Cal Kestis managed to escape, but his master, he wasn't so lucky. The 13th Battalion is often forgotten in Star Wars history, but their story is one of the most tragic. They weren't just soldiers, they were warriors who had their fate stolen from them. 21st Nova Corps. Clone troopers were trained for war, but the Galactic Marines, they were trained for annihilation. These guys didn't wear helmets just for show. They needed them to survive the toxic hellscapes they fought in. They were handpicked from the best of the best, specializing in hostile environments like acidic worlds, frozen wastelands, and toxic gas planets. These weren't standard soldiers. They were war machines built for destruction. Unlike regular clones, these guys rocked phase 2 armor with specialized breathing filters, necessary for insane missions. Their gear was heavily reinforced, giving them an intimidating, almost snowtrooper-like appearance. This was because they were one of the first steps toward what would later become Imperial Stormtroopers. Their commander was known as the coldest and most ruthless in the army, so much so that he personally reassigned clones who didn't meet his standards. He had close characteristics to Commander Neo, as both were seen as cold, unapproachable outcasts. When Palpatine gave the order, these guys didn't hesitate. Jedi General Ki-Adi-Mundi led them into battle on Megiddo, only to be gunned down by his own men in an instant. The 21st Nova Corps was one of the most efficient execution squads during Order 66.